The West Valley Fault runs like a scar through the heart of the Philippines' largest metropolitan area. Is one segment of the larger Valley Fault system that stretches north F. Dona Remedios Trinidad in Bulacan down to Calamba in Laguna, bisecting the eastern flank of Metro Manila and passing through highly urbanized cities such as Quezon City, Pasig, Marikina, Taguig, Muntinlupa, and neighboring provinces. This is not a distant rural danger. The fault lies under neighborhoods, schools, hospitals, shopping centers, and major roads. Geologically, the West Valley Fault is a strike-slip fault. Think of two blocks sliding past each other horizontally. Scientific measurements from GPS and paleoseismic studies indicate that strain is building along the western segment at roughly 10 to 12 millimeters per year, and sections of the fault appear to be locked, accumulating energy that could be released in a large earthquake. That combination, long recurrence interval plus locked sections, is what keeps scientists and planners alert. The historical record and field studies paint a sobering picture. Paleoseismic and historical evidence indicate the last major surface rupturing movement on the West Valley Fault likely happened in the 17th century. Researchers estimate the fault moves in a cycle measured in centuries. Common estimates cluster roughly between 200 and 400 years for major ruptures along segments of the system. Importantly, these are averages. They do not provide a calendar date for when an earthquake will occur. Scientists and hazard modelers use an illustrative scenario commonly called the M7.2 West Valley Fault earthquake to show what could happen if a long segment ruptured. That scenario, developed with national and international partners, projects very strong shaking across Metro Manila, Laguna, and surrounding provinces, reaching intensity levels capable of collapsing unreinforced and poorly built structures, heavily damaging many modern buildings, and disabling lifeline infrastructure like roads, bridges, power, and water. These scenario maps are tools to plan mitigation. They are not predictions, but they show plausible outcomes that planners must take seriously. Numbers from official assessments underline the stakes. Government and independent studies that use the magnitude 7.2 scenario estimate tens to hundreds of thousands of buildings could be damaged or collapse, with casualties and displaced populations measured in tens to hundreds of thousands depending on time of day and the effectiveness of emergency responses. Hospitals, schools, and evacuation centers themselves are part of the at-risk built environment, and their damage would complicate rescue and relief operations. These are not intended to frighten, but to motivate preparedness and rapid risk reduction. There are several common misconceptions that need unraveling. First, the big one label is media shorthand. Scientists emphasize they cannot forecast exact timing, only that strain is accumulating and that a major rupture is physically possible. Second, the Valley Fault system is not a single clean line that will rupture everywhere at once every time. It's a system of linked segments, and rupture behavior can vary. Sometimes only a portion moves, other times ruptures can propagate. Third, proximity to the fault trace heightens risk of surface rupture, but intense shaking and secondary hazards, liquefaction, landslides, fires, infrastructure failure, extend far beyond the trace, affecting areas that may feel artificially safe. Urban vulnerabilities make this fault especially consequential. Rapid, dense urbanization over the past decades put homes and critical infrastructure in formerly open areas that now lie on or very near the fault trace. Informal settlements, older masonry structures, and lifeline networks with single points of failure create cascading risks. When a main road is impassable, aid and rescue slow. When power and communications fail, coordination falters. Retrofitting key public buildings and enforcing land use zoning that respects fault corridors are urgent policy imperatives. What can be done and what is being done to reduce that risk? At national and local levels, agencies have produced maps, scenario plans, building retrofitting lists, and public awareness campaigns. Community drills, early warning improvements, strengthening hospital and school resilience, and pre-positioning emergency supplies are practical steps that save lives. Urban planners are urged to incorporate fault maps into zoning to keep critical facilities and densely inhabited housing out of the immediate fault corridor and to invest in redundant lifelines. These are long-term choices that reduce future trauma and economic losses. Finally, a clear call to action. The fault's existence is not a sentence to catastrophe, it is a clarion call for preparedness. Policymakers should use scenario science to invest in resilient infrastructure, enforce zoning that respects mapped fault corridors, and fund retrofits for public buildings. Communities should practice, plan, and demand safer construction. Donors and private sector actors can accelerate retrofit programs and fund early warning and recovery systems. The unraveled truth is simple. The West Valley Fault is real, the risk is real, and so are the solutions if society chooses to act deliberately and now.